All right. So if my eyes are to be believed, I think we're live on
Here we are, live and alive.
Not only on YouTube, but also Twitter and Facebook now.
Oh, you're doing Twitter now too, huh?
Yeah, wow. And coming up, we'll be doing Twitch. Actually, set up a Twitch channel. I don't think there's anything on there yet, but I'll be live streaming to that too.
You might as well do Snapchat and Instagram.
Yeah, I'm actually working on I'm working on OnlyFans. But no,
OnlyFans channel yet?
OnlyFans, we'll have to take our shirts off.
No. Here's the thing.
I know I lost that weight for a reason. Here we go.
No, I have an idea. It's $1 billion idea. And by the way, welcome to What If We Talked About What If, everybody. I'll do the intros in a second, but I want to lose this $1 billion idea. I'm going to share it with the world. What about like pay for sexy images of comic book nerds, only fanboys?
Oh, okay.
Or only fangirls. You know, you can have separate sites. Yeah.
Well, the fangirl site would be pretty small, but
well, frankly, so would the fanboy site, but that's a whole different thing.
Only fans for film criticism.
Okay, hold on for a second. Sujiwa's in here already.
Elliott's regretting this right now.
Joining the party for a bit after that, I have to go to work on the new sound mix for Slow Romance movie. Yes, coming soon. I may watch some of the What If eps when I take a break after my movie's work. Yes, in fact, I would say the last week's episode, this week's episode, and if you haven't watched the Doctor Strange one yet, I can't remember if you were on that show. Definitely check it out. And yes, OnlyFans for film criticism is a good idea.
That'll be crickets.
Yes. All right. So without further ado, we are going to be talking about episode 8 of the Disney Marvel show What If. This is What If Ultron won? And here to talk about this, I think, honestly, landmark episode with me is David Fowley of Keeping It Real, Mike Crowley of 25 Years Later, and you'll probably agree, and Elliott Serrano. Elliott, welcome. You are an honorary Earth's Mightiest Critic. What's your story? Because David invited you, and we're happy to have you, but is there anything you want to plug or talk about?
Well, David saw me on the corner, said, we'll criticize comics and television for food. So I was told there will be a sandwich at the end of this.
In the green room, yes.
Well, a sandwich of film critics? No, you don't want that. Yeah. That's the OnlyFans. That's the only fanboy premium service.
We'll send you a Grubhub.
Yeah. David knows me from the many years we've been running into each other at screenings. I'm a former freelance writer for the Chicago Red Eye. I've written for Comics Waiting Room, Bleeding Cool, as well as Playboy.com. I currently have a podcast or fan cast called Shaken Not Heard, which is dedicated to the James Bond movies.
Yeah.
And you can see me out and about at different screenings. Well, you will see me again out and about at different screenings when it's no longer, like the thing out there. And I don't have to worry about catching something or being betrayed by another television critic or a movie critic who's really an alien in disguise. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully that day comes soon. Those specific circumstances.
And we had a blast that one time when we spent the day together at Star Wars Celebration.
Oh, Star Wars. Yeah, that was a fun time. Yes. That one of the few times I've seen David cry. It was touching.
Sure.
I was touched.
Was that when they showed early footage of the Rise of Skywalker?
No,
it wasn't that part.
No, it's when I tried holding his hand and he kept saying, "Elliott, not here."
Point to the parts on the Wookiee where it hurt you.
Yeah, sorry.
We have. Oh my God, I hate to break the livelihood, but we have a serious question for the panel. Do comic book stories translate better as animated shows rather than live action movies?
This episode does. When they get to a big climactic fight, I'm like, yeah, this is live action. It could really look cartoony.
Sure.
It could look a little bit like that last act in the
Shang-Chi
Endgame fight. But yeah, and Shang-Chi too, actually. But yeah, it depends what you're doing. But it still wows me more when I see it in live action. But something like this, I like how it lends itself to the style.
Yeah, that's a really tough one. I mean, because for every, live action, I think spectacle, I'm thinking of like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where it's like, Star-Lord versus Ego, and they're getting all imaginative with, all the things they're conjuring to fight each other. I'm like, that's amazing. But then I think of, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and frankly, the climax of the episode we're going to talk about tonight, I'm like, that's fantastic too. I guess I could imagine them each rendered in the opposite medium, but I don't really want to, and that's why I'm glad we're living in this age where we've got a little bit of everything for every taste. So Elliott, what are your thoughts on that question? It's a very good question, Sujua. Thank you.
It is, and my only thing is, yes, there are comic book stories that translate better as animated because there is that level of separation from reality that helps you accept it. I mean, look at any of the fights that Superman had in any of the Superman animated series, Justice League Unlimited, any of those, and then look at the fight he had in Man of Steel with the Kryptonian Zod and the other Kryptonian warriors, where you watch Superman punch Darkseid through a building in Justice League Unlimited, you go, cool. You see Superman go through a building with Zod in Man of Steel, you think 9/11.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
That's a great point.
I mean, it depends. I mean, I think that there's the question is, do the comic book stories translate better as animated shows? It depends on what comic book story it is. I mean, and it depends on what they're doing with the comic book story. I mean, I think when you, like Mike said, when you get into like crazy battles like this, I would say they're better left on the page. But there's been some good, like DC animated movies that have adapted classic stories that have been good. Did they need to be adapted? No. You can leave it with the book. That's fine. But it all depends. If you're making Killing Joke, yes, God. Dude. Oh yes, please. Yeah, we're no fans of that here. But I mean, with this episode specifically, there's a little bit of Bendis's Age of Ultron here, a little bit, and also combining what we know of from the Age of Ultron movie. So it's interesting to adapt that. You're taking what, again, this show is primarily for those who know only the MCU stuff. Okay. But if you're to combine for the deep geek stuff, if you combine some, kind of landmark stories, or at least well-known stories from the comics of the past, I don't know, 20 years or so, that could be interesting. But what the writers are doing is they're making sure that, all right, we'll do a little bit of that, but as long as we're making sure that we're catering to the MCU fans as well.
Well, I got to say, and I'm just going to jump right into spoilers here, even though we're going to talk synopsis and stuff, because this point actually brings me to something very spoilery. It happens at the end of the episode. So if you have not watched the latest episode of What If, and I understand it came out, just this morning, so not everyone's had a chance to catch up, we invite you to check it out and come back. Yeah, well, but so at the end of this episode, the Ultron, as I like to call him, is pummeling the crap out of the Watcher. And he's doing it on what I believe starts out as a barren landscape. But as he starts punching him, the reality around them begins changing. So we see a New York-style city in which on the Jumbotron, Steve Rogers is being sworn in as President of the United States. And then he punches again, and all of a sudden it wipes away, and you see Wakanda as New York, and he punches again. You see like an alien background. So I think that works perfectly in animation. I don't know how you pull that off really in live action, have it be as impressive. I mean, I'm willing to be proven wrong, but there is just something so perfect about that reads like it. I think it's better than seeing it on a comic page, because even then you have to kind of like look and see the panel progression, whereas this, it's like almost like the Thanos snap. You're seeing it happen as it was meant to in terms of what the action dictates. But let's talk about the synopsis of this and how it was trickily stealthily fed into the end of last week's episode, where I mistakenly as one of the many criticisms of last week's episode, which is like the big party gag joke show, where Thor and half the Marvel space universe ended up just like partying across the globe. At the end of that, we see a mysterious figure wearing Ultron's armor, but with Vision's face inside of it and studded with the Infinity Stones on the breastplate, lands, and then the Watcher's like, and this is where things got bad. And I said, this is going to be like all of the other episodes where they don't lead to anything. So it's a really cool idea, but why are you showing this to me? We find out this week that it's because, not that this is a continuation, but the events of this episode lead into the end of that episode and leave it as a purposeful cliffhanger. And we're left to imagine that things didn't go well for the party planet, but we don't, it's not this giant continuity thing they're trying to establish. I thought that was really cool. But so essentially during Age of Ultron, Ultron gets to Vision before Tony and the team have a chance to, bring him to life for good, and he uses his sort of his ultimate weapon, and he wipes out everything except for Hawkeye and Black Widow, which I do want to talk to you guys about. But after conquering the Earth and then conquering every other world, he's just kind of sitting there bored, and the Watcher starts narrating as he does throughout this entire series, and then Ultron's like, wait, who's that talking? And you realize he breaks the fourth wall of reality, and then he goes to kick the Watcher's ass, and then through a series of skirmishes, and the Watcher's on the run, he's trying to seek help from different realities. He essentially loses, and it comes to a moment of desperation, which is a beautiful tie-in at the end to something we saw a few episodes ago. So I was trying to think as this episode went on, is this my favorite what if or my second favorite what if? Because before this week, my first favorite was the Doctor Strange episode. Mm-hmm. And then they bring that back as a callback. I'm like, damn it, now they're tied. And I can't wait till next week. I haven't been able to say that about any of these shows of this series, these episodes, but I really can't wait till next week.
I'm just glad mid-fight he changed his outfit, because he could only do so much in a robe and sandals.
Yes,
he kind of looks like a little kid wearing like his dad's clothes.
Charlie Brown in a
he's got like the big head with the long cape, and I guess his body is like proportionate to that, but it just
don't pick on me.
Yeah, it's like he took his dad's Halloween costume of like genie guy or whatever, and
well, he had the gold gloves almost looked like the Thanos gauntlet minus gems. But I want to ask about this Black Widow Hawkeye thing, because there's this beautiful, it reminded me of the end of Terminator 3 where all the nukes go up and then come down and blow up the plant, that nice dark ending. But they're in the Quinjet, or one of the special shield jets, flying around, and they see all this happening. And yet we know that they lived through the nuclear apocalypse to be chased down by, Ultron droids. Where did they seek shelter? And also, I don't know much about thermonuclear war, but I would suspect that if Ultron, in an effort to conquer humanity, launched, let's say, half the nukes, I don't think you're going to see like Russian buildings and stuff like still even half standing. I feel like it's just going to be all dust, except for anything that might be, 75 feet underground, like the Umbrella Corporation.
Well, let's just face it. They have better architects in Russia.
There you go. Yeah, that may be it. That's the secret. They built all those with vibranium.
When I was growing up in the 80s, there was this miniseries called The Day After. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
Jason Robards scared the crap out of me. And and I, we were all afraid about, nuclear war and everything. And one of the things that I think I remember my dad telling me this is like, if there's a nuclear war, what happens is the nuclear fallout and the waste and the, that's all in the air and the clouds, it goes like around. Okay. So it doesn't like spread out. It just kind of like goes around the globe. So if they're up in the air in the shield, jet, Quinjet, whatever, they could technically just go hang out in Australia for a while until this blows over and then go back.
I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about being in the air. I saw another movie from 1990 with Powers Booth and Rebecca De Mornay, an HBO original film called By Dawn's Early Light, which is another nuclear disaster movie. And they're actually flying a bomber. I can't remember if they had actually dropped the bombs or not, but they get caught in a nuclear blast and their kind of plane goes down. But yeah, I feel like if you're in a plane at the moment when hundreds of nuclear warheads go off, you're not staying up in the air very long.
You're gonna get rattled.
Right, and these are also the two, like, they have no superpowers. These are the Avengers without powers. So I'm like, I don't know. I felt like I missed something. Like, where were they? How did they get down and make their way to Russia? Unless they crash landed in Russia, the exact place where the last Arnim Zola bot or computer was housed. And also, I know Clint Barton is amazing. We get to see that he has a Batman's utility belt worth of specialized arrows, in his quiver. It gets a little cheesy, but where I had to draw the line was he takes the end of his bow and he sticks it into a computer to access it R2-D2 style, and it
not
works.
the bow, an arrow. It was an arrow.
Oh, it was an arrow? It looked like a big bulky.
Yeah, drive at the end of
that's the thing. The top of it was so weird. I thought it was just like the top of his bow or something. But I overlooked that because it was, the idea was cool. But I'm like, what are you doing?
But why wouldn't he have that? Why wouldn't you have a USB or a port or a drive on one of your arrows? Well, what the heck?
But here's the thing.
They have all sorts of magic and stuff.
What do you want, a big glove at the end of one of his arrows?
I'm talking about compatibility. I don't know who is maintaining or creating these computers, but it would have been great if, Zola's tower only had floppy drives.
That would be great. Yeah.
Sorry,
we do not have that technology.
Yeah.
Sejua confirms that EMP charges, their dynamite from a nuclear detonation would knock out planes, which I think that checks out.
Probably.
Yeah. Not Disney planes. That was a different movie.
Oh wow! Okay,
yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Dane Cook, everybody. As Dusty Crop Hopper.
Wow!
I know this because
you really know this.
Well, I know it because A, I unabashedly love that movie, even though I only saw it once, and B, we've got some of the children's books from 10 years ago, from when our oldest was young, and now we're reading them to our youngest. And
there you go.
Yeah. Oh, hold on. Oh, damn it! Now you're doing it to us. Except for specially built planes.
Oh, asterisks.
So Avengers probably have one of those special planes.
Okay.
But come on, all the nuclear bombs. All right.
Drop the bomb on me.
Okay, baby. So I'm open to theories. Are we just gonna let this go?
You're not even asking why Clint is missing an arm.
Because he wanted to be like Oliver Queen in Dark Knight Returns.
I guess. I mean, it's obviously that's related to the whole thing. And that's the thing that's driven me nuts about a lot of these episodes, is that there's so much backstory left unsaid. You're totally. Wait, and you sit there and you go, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. But if this happens here, why isn't this and why isn't that? And then they have to do an article on Entertainment Weekly where one of the writers comes out and explains, well, this is actually what happened. And you're like, I shouldn't need that. I should be able to tell on my own or be able to fill in the details myself.
I'm with you, brother.
Well, it's the reason I think they included that isn't any kind of a deep, hidden story. I feel like that is some just kind of a weird callback, almost like, what if Ultron won, and in that same universe, what if Clint Barton was also somehow the Winter Soldier? Because I got like major Bucky Barnes vibes off of that, that missing arm, and the fact that it was like you could snap it back on, like it was probably made of vibranium or whatever. It's the other thing, the other callback that I thought was just 1 degree too cute was Clint's sacrifice hanging over the reactor as the Ultron bots are coming up through the shield, and he's like, I told you, Nat, or whatever, I'm tired of fighting. And she lets him go, and then he proceeds to fight all the way down.
I thought that weird too. He's like, I'm done fighting. I'm like, but you're fighting right now.
It'd be great if he just like pulled out a book while he's falling and just starts reading.
It was a callback, of course,
to Endgame.
Endgame.
Yes.
And he wasn't so much fighting as buying her time to get away.
Yeah, I understand. I just think they they should leave that part out.
I think it would have.
I'll be done with fighting in about 30 seconds.
You know, Elliott touched on something that we mentioned in a bunch of other episodes here. There's some really cool concepts and interesting things happening in a lot of these episodes, but if only they stretched it out a little bit more. Why are they only 30 minutes? You know, it's like, okay, you know, fine. But like I would have loved to have a little bit more time with like the half-built Arnim Zola Ultron, because I think it's just hilarious to hear that voice coming out of this like supposedly deadly robot. He goes, you know, let me shoot this ray gun, you know. And
it's just a flesh wound.
I mean, it's just like, and I'm thinking here too. Nat is very capable. She's agile, she's strong, and everything. But wait, she's putting this thing on her back. It's got to be really heavy, really heavy. You know, at least 100 pounds. You know, puts this thing on her back, and then climbs up that. I'm like, come on. What's happening here?
Well, I have no idea.
She fell from, I don't know, like 100 stories or whatever in the Black Widow movie, bounced off the fire escape and landed on the ground, and with not a
with a pose.
Yeah,
and she did the pose again today, or in this episode.
So obviously there's something going on. Either the Black Widow is super powered somehow, or not, and they keep forgetting. One way or the other.
If it's your main character, they can't be injured. You know, you can get in a car accident and have another car fall on top of you, or your car can flip over and you get out and you're like, ugh, and there's just some dust on you and you just walk away.
Like early on when she saw
McClane.
Yeah. Like early on when she saw Clint fall from a distance with one of the Ultron robots. How would he survive that? I don't know. Stop, drop, and roll. I don't know.
And
maybe
that motorcycle.
Yeah, that was a cool move with the motorcycle, I have to say.
Yeah, but if you actually do that with their motorcycle, that motorcycle is not going to stay in one piece when you land.
Oh no,
unless it's made of vibranium. All right. The plane has 3 decks and can hold a crew up to 112 people. Sounds like the early version of the Avengers flying aircraft.
What is he Googling this stuff?
Possibly, but do we know that that's the exact plane they were flying? That thing didn't look like it had 3 decks. Maybe 3 decks of cards for if the pilot.
The fact that he puts it in quotes means he copied and pasted that.
Yes, or he's.
I say that from experience.
or he's quoting himself, which is valid. But no, I'm going to disagree slightly, David. In principle, yes, we have talked about this, and I'm not a proponent of planting these seeds that we're probably never going to see, to fruition. But in this episode, I feel like it was packed enough with enough cool action sequences and ideas that I felt like everything stuck around just long enough. I feel like I didn't need to see any more of busted, Arnim Zola half Ultron. I think if you left out, I agree. I don't think you need the arm thing with Hawkeye because it doesn't buy anything. I think it's just like a little Easter egg to get people wondering, what if? But yeah, it took me to some surprising places. And I think this is one of the few episodes, much like the Doctor Strange one, that used the full potential, not only of the concept, but also of what we know of these characters in the Marvel Universe. I always thought, and one of my problems with Age of Ultron is that I understand the heroes won, but we never saw the full potential of what that character could do if he was unleashed. And we really see that here, and it's terrifying. So yeah, oh, wait, hold on a second. Stu has sent a link. I'll have to see if I can find it because it's not showing up here. But all right, yeah. So that's the thing. I think this was just about, a couple of goofy bits aside. I think this was probably a perfect episode.
What were the goofy bits, you think?
The Ultron, Zola thing. I think it's a neat idea, but he's kind of played for the comic relief, whereas it would have been more interesting to see him actually try and form some kind of alliance with Ultron to betray Nat and Hawkeye, but then to have Ultron turn back and say, I don't need you. You're an analog piece of garbage.
If we had more time, sure.
I do have to say, I did kind of like the Watcher sort of being like, please, find the right pile. Please, like that kind of actually. Maybe you wouldn't like it. I dug it.
That bugged me just because it went on for too long. I mean, it's only a couple of minutes, but it's that Marvel humor. And if like one joke is fine, 58 jokes in this course of as many seconds is not. Plus, I did like the fact that he, right as he finds the file, he gives up. He's like, "This is pointless." I'm like, that's cute,
Right?
But then that's of course like you're gonna think yourself a real jerk because you almost gave up on this. And like, well, he kind of gave up later, so I don't think he thought about it much.
I felt like they crammed a lot into 30 minutes, and it was a pretty concise story.
Yeah.
That it didn't feel like it dragged on anything, because like the zombies thing dragged on, and the rock concert or the party, Thor being a party boy dragged on. This felt more like like the Doctor Strange episode. It has a sad ending, but this one's a little more fun, and again ties to it, right? And that was, and I think they knew that was the best one. So hopefully it's the next one, the last one.
No, we got two more.
Oh,
it's supposed to be 10 episodes, so
probably won't tie. Probably next week will be poopy.
Well, no, but this one leads directly to a cliffhanger. With him kind of and that's the thing, is at the end of that Doctor Strange episode, I have to go back and watch it again, but I thought that whole universe had kind of collapsed into itself, or eaten itself, because it kind of ended. You see that little dark gem prismatic thing, but then I think it goes dark. But I guess he kept that, or that still exists somewhere in like a backup drive of realities, because he kind of pulled him out, and he's like, oh, it's you. So you get the idea that he's going to pull that Stephen Strange out as his last hope against Ultron. My question is this going to be part of an actual like arc? Is it a two-parter? Is it going to take us all the way into through the end of this season? And could it take us into the multiverse of madness?
I don't think so. I think the whole point is this is an episodic show. Even if they connect things here and there, I think it's more like, oh, isn't it cool how we put this together? Like, are they really going to pay? If they do, I would think it would be in the finale. Then it would be the next week. It could be like one of those like cliffhangers, or like when we saw Boba Fett and Mandalorian. It was like, oh my God, Boba Fett. And then like we don't see him for like half the season. It could be like that. All of a sudden it just comes back. Or could never be dressed again.
Could be. Elliot, you look like you want to jump in.
Yeah, sorry.
Jump in. The water's great.
No, the next episode is going to be what if the Avengers were all geckos?
There you go. It'll be like
we'll learn where alligator Loki came from.
I was going to say he should make a cameo appearance in that case, yeah.
But that's kind of been my whole thing, my problem. And I know you say you really enjoyed that Doctor Strange episode. I did not like that Doctor Strange episode at all, because it went against the character. It just went against who the character was as established in the MCU. If Dr. Stephen Strange in this reality knows enough that he can love another woman, okay, that the woman of his life meant more to him than his career as a neurosurgeon, like the Stephen Strange in the main MCU, then he doesn't have the ego, the obsessive ego that you need to go after the solution to whatever problem. Because remember, in the main MCU, the sacred timeline, as we call it, right? He has such an ego about himself. The world revolves around him, even to the point when they try to repair his hands. It's like he's angry at the dude who tried to repair his hands just to give him hands that he could use, because he knew that nobody else was good enough for it. And it's that level of obsession that comes from his ego, from his narcissism, that allows him to go out and become a master of the mystic arts, right? He doesn't have any of that ego. So why? And then I don't understand, why is he going after the mystic arts to go back in time to save the woman he loved? I mean, that makes no sense.
Well, I disagree. I think the fact that she ended up in the car with him going to wherever that gala or whatever, that was the twist of fate that was different than how it was in the movie. I think that egotism is exactly what drove him to seek out the dark arts and become that monster, because he couldn't. I think he couldn't deal with the fact that he survived. I don't think he could accept the fact that fate or whatever had taken away this thing from him, because it's like, I want her and now I can't have her. There's got to be a way that I can still have her.
But then the story cheats after that, because okay, then I'm going to change at one point in time where we get into the car accident. Said, oh no, she's going to die of a heart attack or an aneurysm, or no matter what he does at that point,
right?
The universe is like killer. I'm like, that's
right.
I mean, that was like a Doctor Who bit where they go, her death is a fixed point in time, you can't change it. Come on. I mean,
I mean, that's something I think we talked about. It's a weird wrinkle that I don't think we'd seen before, this idea. And it's almost like something that you might have seen in Loki, that there are certain kind of milestone events that have to happen. But the more that he goes on through these, realities and trying to fix and solve it, Groundhog's Daying it, I think that feeds completely into his ego, because at no point does he learn the idea of self-sacrifice as he did through the course of the Doctor Strange movie, where he sets himself up. It turns out he doesn't have to, because the creature doesn't make him stand there for eternity. But the point is, he's willing to do it. Whereas before he goes through that entire journey, he was the kind of guy who would say, no, I don't care if the universe is trying to tell me I can't do something. I'm Stephen Strange. I'll find out a way, even if it destroys me and everything that I love, because in the end, I'm going to win. I think that's why I responded to the episode. I thought it had a pretty good through line, except for that wonky bit about the fixed, sacred moment in time.
Right.
All I know is I know plenty of narcissists, and I know plenty of people who are like Stephen Strange. They don't care about nobody but themselves. And to change that one bit was a crucial change, at least in my opinion. So.
But I think that factors in, because even though he cares about someone who is not him, that possessiveness is an aspect of his personality, right? So he only cares about himself, and he cares about what he wants, and what he wants is that woman. And if he can't have it, then that's like denying a part of himself, and he won't have that because he only cares about himself. Yeah, it's a sociopathic, narcissistic loop.
Yeah.
So then, okay, let's go back to, but what happened in the movie where someone told him, oh, you can get healed, but you have to go to,
Tibet or whatever. Okay. Yeah.
So at what point did someone say, hey, you can go back in time? Again,
I haven't seen the Doctor Strange movie in a long time, so I don't remember exactly, who was talking to him at what point, after the accident. So I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Actually talked to him. Okay.
Oh, at the end of the movie, right?
Benjamin Bratt.
The main thing I remember Benjamin Bratt from is from Miss Congeniality.
Oh boy,
I'm not ashamed.
There you go. That's okay.
Yeah,
no problem. Yeah, but again, there's going to be differences, and there should be differences between the animated and the live action MCU. I guess one of the reasons why I responded to the Doctor Strange episode the most is that it literally felt like a one and done thing, where, and honestly, I didn't really, unlike the other episodes, I didn't really want a whole lot more than what we got with that episode. Whereas a lot of these other episodes is like, wait, hold on, can't we extend this a little bit more? There's a lot more you could do with this. That Doctor Strange was kind of one and done, and it felt like part of an anthology. I don't want this to be, and that's the one thing I don't like about the end of last episode and this episode. It's like, okay, I guess this show's not an anthology anymore. That kind of defeats the whole purpose of the what if concept. I mean, the what if concept is that, the original comics was like each issue was a standalone. Each issue answered that question, what if? And this is like, what if this title of this episode should be like, what if we continued from where we left off last episode?
And this is something I think that we've talked about a bit before, David, and I think I disagree. I love this idea of beginning to connect things. I think if this had been a season 2 or maybe even a season 3 of What If, I think this whole thing would have been perfect. Because if you have 2 seasons of establishing What If as standalone things, like every episode is going to be a Twilight Zone. They don't connect. Mm-hmm. But then by the time you get to the 3rd season, it's like, how many more of these can we do? What can we do new? We can connect them because we're leading into a multiverse, cinematically.
I'd be done with that.
But here's the thing. From a comic book reader's perspective, I don't necessarily want to, especially with the quality of the episodes we've been getting, I don't care about any of these standalones. The idea that they're connecting them and like weaving them in interesting ways, like the fact that when Ultron shows up at the end of the last episode and you go into this one thinking, oh, this is a continuation. No, it's not. That was an alternate reality that was spawned in the middle of this episode, but we never really see it again. It just opens up all these different possibilities. So yeah, I'm approaching it more from, I grew up reading, comics, and I read, a handful of what ifs, and I got the idea. I don't necessarily want to see that in a show unless the writing is all top notch. But if it's not going to be, then I need to see something different.
Yeah, okay.
That's just my personal taste.
I think for at least one season they can keep it completely episodic, but I see your point. Yeah, sir. I once you kind of get over the sort of, for lack of a better term, tackiness of it, once we get over the whole, okay, here's all this fan fiction, where do you go? How do you keep it interesting? How do you keep people engaged? Like, okay, we had a sad what if, here's a happy, here's zombies. Oh, we don't know what to do. Yeah.
Can we talk about Ultron's idea of peace? So his idea,
the peace in our time thing.
Yeah, his idea of peace is kind of like that episode of Twilight Zone with Burgess Meredith, where he just wants, time to just, be left alone and read all these books. And then, at the end, his glasses are smashed and, he can't read anything because he doesn't know where his glasses are. He's all alone. And it was ideally what he thought he wanted. But apparently Ultron's idea of peace is like a lot of other comic book villain, megalomaniacs, is like destroy everything and then just, pull out a chair and sit on a planet and chill. Yeah. I mean, is that his idea of peace? Is just destroy everything and I'm alone?
That would be a really interesting episode of someone's idea for peace, like a bad guy's idea actually was kind of peaceful, and then the superheroes try to stop him in some way. It's like, wait a minute. He's right. That would be
kill everybody.
I'm not saying like snap everyone out of existence. I'm just saying, what if?
Oh, but by the way, I do want to, before I answer your question, David, because I do have one, or at least a theory. I love that Thanos shows up. Ultron looks. I think it was Vision. Was he Vision Ultron by then, or is it just Vision?
I think it was Vision Ultron. Yeah. By then.
Okay. He just looks at him. He's like, "Huh," and then he just slices him in half.
Because all he saw was the glove. He's like, "I want that."
Poor Thanos. He just shows up like, "This is my time." Oh no. But okay. As far as Ultron's. Oh, first of all. Second of all, I should say, this is second diversion. I thought about that Twilight Zone episode too, David, but not in the context you did. It was when Nat and Hawkeye, why did I say Nat and Hawkeye? Nat and Clint were in the Russian vault, and you just see the progression of these papers piling up. I'm like, how long were they in there? I just like thinking, because there isn't really an urgency to any of this. I don't think. They're just trying to, well, as far as they know, because everything's gone. They're just like, if there's a way that we can save what's left of the planet or ourselves, they could have been in there for like a decade. Because they're right. It is the Ark of the Covenant warehouse. But Ultron's idea of peace. I don't think he has an idea. I think he's got programming. When Tony Stark said peace in our time, and then in Age of Ultron, we saw him computing and going through that, and he said, okay, the solution is everybody has to die. He was able to execute that program. And when he got to it and he's standing there on that rock in the middle of space, he's like, okay, I've killed everyone. It's kind of like the Terminator. Once it kills John Connor, it just, stops, or it goes on until it stops. Its thermonuclear battery dies out. I think he was kind of at that point until he had gained such sentience that he realized, oh, there are 1,000,000,003 other universes that now I have to go and do that in. So he was kind of like, well, I just got to continue my programming. It wasn't about his idea. It was just like, am I done doing what I was created to do?
Okay.
I don't know. That's not intellectually satisfying.
I don't get why Ultron didn't just think, okay, there's peace. Now I'm going to create more Ultrons and we're going to live in harmony, because he knew to create more Ultrons. That was a part of his programming.
But in the service of doing his, executing his prime directive.
But he's also sentient. So if he's sentient, he's able to, redirect.
He's sentient. He's sentient enough. And I don't know that we've spent enough time with this iteration of Ultron to understand if he has a philosophy beyond, the only philosophy you really understand of him is what he used to determine that mankind had to go. I don't know if he cares about feelings or dreams or has aspirations. He just, it's like, what does your toaster do? What does it think about the microwave? It doesn't. It's just got to make toast.
I disagree. No, you don't make yourself a cape and not have aspirations.
If he didn't take over the whole world without aspirations, I think I have to agree with Elliott on
Well,
that.
but aspirations to do, but it's never established that he really wants anything except to kill everybody, and he builds stuff. I mean, yeah, but the thing about the cape, it is kind of ridiculous, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there was anything else there. It could have just been an artistic flourish. Hey, wouldn't it look cool if Ultron had a cape?
But Ultron is thinking that.
Right.
Ultron thought that. Wouldn't it be cool if I had a cape?
Well, no, I think the animators and the writers said, this would look badass if Ultron had a cape. I'm saying there's nothing in the story to indicate that Ultron wants anything except to do what he's doing. He doesn't have any regret. He doesn't fall in love. He doesn't say, once I achieve this, then I'll do X. All he does and all he thinks about, as far as we can see in his actions, is doing what he was created to do.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Not saying it's pretty conceited for the writers to think first that this one Ultron, even with the Infinity Gauntlet, can wipe out an entire, we're talking the universe and beyond, in whatever time. And also Ultron had a beef with human beings in Age of Ultron. The human beings don't populate the entire universe. I mean, he could have met other living creatures that got along just fine, that didn't have the issues that human beings do. And go, oh, well, my programming doesn't apply here because they live in harmony with each other.
Well, and that's where I think I didn't mind that, because I kind of extrapolated that to mean humanoids and sentient life could potentially be a problem. I think if, to David's point earlier, we had an extra 15 minutes, we would have seen him, or could have seen him working out. Well, I've destroyed the Earth. Hey, what's this Nova Corps I've heard about? Because in having all of the information, all of the planet's resources at his disposal, he had to know everything that S.H.I.E.L.D. knew. He had to know about, Captain Marvel and where to find stuff and where to go. Plus, after he's conquered the planet, and this is all condensed into like a 5-minute montage, he's going everywhere. He's seeking out life wherever it exists, ostensibly in this sum total of our known reality, and then he breaks into the beyond reality. So, yeah, I don't see that as a problem. I feel like he's, and this is me just kind of interpreting, he had his prime directive, he executed it, and then he found an extension of that made sense to him in some capacity. And that's, I still can't justify the cape, but again, I feel like the cape was a misstep. I feel like the cape was Clint's vibranium arm.
Why is the Watcher wearing a cape? Too. It's like, come on,
Yeah.
And weren't
there other Watchers in the comics? Yeah, we haven't seen them in this show.
They leave him alone,
but they have appeared in the movies. There is that one. I'm trying to remember the end of which movie.
Oh, the Stan Lee, right, with
Stan
the
Lee's
astronaut.
Talking to the
right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Jeez.
So there are multiple ones. I kept waiting for them to show another Watcher, or like he was the Watcher of this multiverse or this universe. But they're ones watching it. Because I'm serious. I'm sorry. If you're the Watcher, I don't care how powerful, how all-knowing you are, you cannot watch every multiverse. Because that's a lot to watch. A lot of shit to keep track of. So you have to have more Watchers.
Clearly you don't need sleep.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but you're talking and you realize that Ultron hears you. I would have been like, I'm in the closet and Michael Myers can hear me. I'm going to stop talking at that point.
Yeah, why do you keep talking?
I'm not going to keep chit-chatting and then have him turn around and come after me. I mean, come on, dude. You're the Watcher. You should know better.
I think by his point, he just doesn't. He's just used to people not being able to interact with him. But his naivete was his downfall. It seems at a certain.
And that's a good point, because he's narrating this entire show like to us essentially. You get the idea that he's just kind of like walking around talking to himself, because as far as we've seen in this cartoon, and I know it's different in the other movies because there are other Watchers, but it looks like he's been left alone. He is the Burgess Meredith of his little fiefdom. He's like, yep, I'm watching stuff, and these are the realities, and what if we did what if? So when he realizes that someone can actually see and hear him, he might have just been panic talking, like, oh shit, you can hear me? I should stop. Wait, I can't stop talking. I don't know what's going on. I gotta run. Why am I running? This makes no sense.
Yeah, he even says at one point, he's like, what the hell? And I'm like, that's great. The fact that the Watchers even just like...
It's funny how I feel like just because it's Jeffrey Wright, the writers were like, we got to give him something more to do. And it was like, there was that moment of like, he didn't say this, specifically, but it was almost like this, oh, snap line, that Jeffrey Wright was dropping. And it's like, it just seemed like, if you grew up reading these comics, it's like the Watcher, especially Utao, he wasn't very emotive. He's pretty much like one note, one dimensional, kind of, monosyllabic. Yeah, sure. But it happens to be a lot of Jeffrey Wright in this specific episode.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, by the time it got to the end, now I liked the idea that they brought back the evil Doctor Strange, but the more I think about it, the less I want to see what they're planning to do with that, because I'm more into the last few minutes of this episode where they're going through the different realities and kind of like pummeling each other and like, what does this all mean? It'd be fun if they just did kind of ignore this one and maybe came back to it in episode 10 or like alluded to, oh, by the way, that weird thing that happened with the evil Doctor Strange, we took care of it. Just to frustrate people like me who would like to see an arc. But yeah, I don't know exactly where I want to see this go. But this episode gave me hope that there is a direction that it could go to some interesting places instead of just, what if Captain America was a woman?
I want episode 9 to be what if the Avengers were dogs. I'm telling you, that would bring me back.
Dogs or geckos? Make up your mind.
It'll just all be all sorts of animals. It'll be Howard the Duck wants revenge and turns everyone into an animal.
What if Howard the Duck got the Infinity Stones?
Boom. We should be in the writer's room, folks. Yep. We should be in this writer's room.
Instead, we're just here on StreamYard. But okay, to wrap up, is there anything that we did not? I mean, because this 45 minutes has flown by. At least as I've been monologuing, I feel like I have. I hope you guys haven't tuned out or fallen asleep. But yeah, thanks, David.
We have our Watchers.
So weird.
This has been a cardboard cutout of me the whole time. Just
Hey, wait. You still have that pen?
Wait. Okay, ready? I'm gonna throw it to you.
I'm ready. Okay. Yep.
Get it.
See, right here, the magic of the internet, everyone.
He went between universes.
That's right.
No, before we went live, everyone.
That reminded me of like what was that DC event? The Superboy Prime was like smashing against the
punch the hole through the multiverse
bubble and everything. He was going nuts and smashing into different multiple Earths. And
was that on the Crisis crossover that they did?
Right.
Okay, I didn't see any of that, but I heard it was really good.
That's right.
But no, before we went live,
I don't know.
I
think
throwing pens at me
one of the cool
things,
I guess, in this episode is to see the power that the Watcher has. I guess we didn't really expect that, and it was as much as the Watcher always says, "My job is to watch and never to interfere." Okay, peeping Tom. He did interfere a lot in the comics. You don't say that without actually eventually doing it. Okay.
Yeah.
So
you gotta have a payoff.
He did.
We lost David.
Look at what I did.
The Watcher didn't care for him spouting off about him.
Oh no. Well,
he interfered.
While we're waiting for him to come back, it just reminds me of. Oh wait, hold on. This might be him. Weird. It's a wholly different window.
What the?
Oh my god! It's so many multiverses.
I just got punched out. What happened?
I have no idea what's happening. This is so weird.
Who's gonna show up in that?
He's gonna. I want to see what happens.
It'd be weird if it was
for like a minute.
Oh, I was gonna say it'd be weird if it was David and you just said, "Oh, sorry guys, I got knocked out." Wait a second, there's two Davids.
If it was my mom saying go to bed.
No. Ooh. Does anyone remember the Sharon Stone 1993 or 4 thriller Sliver?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the motto of that, the slogan on the poster was "You like to watch, don't you?" I want some fan out there to remake that poster with the Watcher.
That's right. Doing the Watcher.
Are we
coming up from behind Sharon Stone? What? No, we're still live.
Wasn't a Baldwin in that?
Yeah.
Baldwin.
Good
Yikes! And Tom Berenger as the killer. Spoiler.
Wow.
Oh my God! They spoiled
Tom Berenger is the
that
Watcher.
movie. It's Slither.
Yeah. Hey, the best part about that was UB40's cover of "Can't Help Falling in Love," which like ruled VH1 that summer.
Oh wow!
Anyhow, wise men
That's
say
right.
it's time to end this live stream, so I'm just gonna say thank you everybody for hanging out. Thank you, Elliott.
Oh my gosh.
We're gonna
VH1.
drop links to your stuff down below so people can check it out. And I would like to formally extend an invitation anytime you want to come and hang out again with Earth's Mightiest Critics. I'd say you earned your bona fides. You're good enough to hang out with us, is what I'm saying. Please come back.
I'd come back, but I don't like people.
Oh, well, we barely count as people. Does that count?
Well, good thing we're not people.
we're Marvel fans. No,
We're just
okay.
Geekbots.
Geekbot. I'd like to see that as an Ultron clone. And then we have Mike Crowley of 25 Years Later and YPA Reviews. David Fowley of Keeping It Real. I am, as always, Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. Thanks, everyone, for watching. If you watch this live or if you're watching in the future, feel free to smash the like button, as they say, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Check out all of my dear friends' info in the links below. And join us next week. We're going to be doing a bit of an earlier show. I believe we'll be starting at 8:30 p.m. Central next Wednesday for What If We Talked About What If, because at 9:20 p.m. Central, we'll be doing a special supplemental roundtable live stream reviewing Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage.
You sound so happy.
I was one of the 3 people on the planet who defended the first Venom movie. David, I think you were there for that recording. And I have no interest in seeing the sequel, so we'll see if my lack of interest is warranted.
Are you looking forward to it, Elliot?
I haven't even seen the first one.
Oh, are you going to?
I have no interest in Spider-Man spin-offs when I can't get enough Spider-Man. You know,
True.
like I have no interest in Morbius, and I actually like the character of Morbius.
Yeah.
But if it's not part of the Spider-Man universe, don't care. Don't give me a Doctor Doom movie without Fantastic Four. Sorry.
True that.
So here's a question: if they spin this off into like a Sinister Six team up thing, then will you go back? And if Spider-Man shows up to fight them, then will you go back and catch up on the interconnected movies?
I don't think Sony's going to make it that I have to do that. They don't have that kind of imagination.
I appreciate the assessment. I appreciate the honesty. All right. Well, so yeah, join us back here next week, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you guys for bailing me out of talking to myself for an hour.
That would be great.
Like the watch
for you
Just
to
like
watch.
a watcher, you're just being like someone just pops in the middle of a podcast. You're like, who was that?
You could have narrated it just like Jeffrey Wright the whole time.
No, that would not have worked at all. But anyway, I'm going to say good night, everybody. And of course, as we end every broadcast, Excelsior.
Excelsior.